Tanakh book is the heart of the Knesset, and we are here with wonderful people from all over the world, all sides of the ocean, United States of America, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, I think, and we have people really even people from Efrat and Bet Shemesh. Please, let's applaud everybody. Everyone should clap his hands for himself. To my right, I have Rabbi Tubi Weiss, who chairs the Breaking Israel and the Israel 365, and father of the Israel Bible, which you will be hearing a lot about in the near future. To my left is Rabbi Yishai Fleischer, who is beyond being the spokesman for Hebron and an ex-resident of Mount Zaytim. He is mainly Rabbi Yishai Fleischer, which that's more than anything else. We have many people here who love this wonderful book, the ID for the people of Israel, the ID for our right to this land, the roadmap, which if you would have come to Israel 1,000 years ago, you would be touring and seeing what happened. Today, when you come to Israel, you're touring and seeing what is happening, holding the same book. Because the words of the prophets are materializing and becoming a reality. And as I always say, in our generation, to be an atheist, you need a lot of faith. I welcome Sophia, who stands behind our event. Sophia. And I'm also welcoming Mr. Tommy Waller, who happens to be the husband of Mrs. Waller. And Tim Head, who's joining him. Together. Guys, today we're on my final acknowledgement before we start to, because today we're not going to be talking about Bible. We're going to be talking Bible. Okay? We're not talking about it. About it, you can go TV shows, they'll talk about it, and for and against, and what you think, and how it should be. We're talking Bible today. That's my daughter, and she's going to have to wait, unfortunately. But I want to really thank you all for coming in, but I also want to majorly thank a very close friend, a couple, the Garlos, who really initiated the Schindler Foundation, who initiated the whole idea of teaching Bible in parliaments. Because some people may think that religion is like something you do at home, behind a closed door, in church, in synagogue, but nobody has to see, because afterwards you become a human being. But that's not the way the Bible tells us. Our life is Bible. Our life is God. Our state is God. And that's the state of mind we're going to try to be here. And I really bless the Garlos. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. I don't want to get into any kind of politics, so we're not going to discuss why they couldn't make it. But for that's good. They're not here today. And I'm going to start the first lesson, because we're going to try to improve from lesson to lesson, so I'm going to start from the first one to start. I usually try to teach the Bible. I try to take chapters of the Bible that deal with national issues. Today I decided for a change to do something very, very personal. Those who have good eyesight, you can see it on what I'm teaching on the two screens here, in front of me and in back of me. Those who want to have it in front of them, have it in front of them. We're going to be studying chapter 27 of Psalms. Those of you who have the book, you can look at the book. It's Psalm 27. I want to point out why I'm giving out this piece of paper, because if we all know they have the book, why am I giving out this piece of paper? Because I think that sometimes we miss the whole idea of a psalm because we don't see the structure of it. And we're used to looking at it the way, like as if it's prose, but actually it's poetry. And if you don't know the structure of this of poetry, you really miss out the whole thing. So I want to show us how we, just like looking at it, we see the whole idea of this chapter. It's a chapter which I divided into two. And the justification of the division of the psalm into two is because the worshiper who speaks here in the first person, in the entire chapter, throughout the first half of the psalm, he speaks about God in the third person, without not even one direct appeal to him. In the second person, I'm going to read a few sentences. The Lord is my light, He's my salvation. He, when the wicked grew around me to consume me, my flesh, my enemies, and my foes, they stumble and fail. Even if an army should encamp against me, my heart will not fear, because I'm confident in you. So he's talking about God in the third person, with not even one time direct talking about it in the second person. He doesn't even present one single request from God. He's sure. He's fully in trust of God. And then suddenly, in verse 7, the whole thing changes. In contrast, God is characterized by a direct appeal to God. In every single verse that we read, hear my voice, I'm crying out, be gracious to me, answer me. My heart, seek my face, your face, O Lord, I seek. Somebody who's seeking God's face means he can't see God's face. So we're dividing the chapter into two parts. One part where God is, I'm full of trust in God. The other part, I'm praying to God. And then we have the final sentence where clearly distinguished from both parts of the psalm, the psalmist is no longer talking about himself in first person, but he's rather appealing to some other party, maybe the reader or listener, exhorting him and encouraging him to place his hope in God. He says, have hope in the Lord. Be strong and He shall give courage to your heart, and have hope in the Lord. So what we see here so beautifully has how this chapter divides itself into two halves. So now, what is the distinction between these two halves? Are we talking about the same person? It's like totally different stories. One story is, I have full trust in God. He's going to be with me. He's going to support me. Nobody can overcome me. I'm with God. And my dream is, one, to be in the house of God. He doesn't even beg God. He doesn't say, please God, take me to your house. He says, one thing I ask the Lord, that is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all days of my life. He said, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm fully in trust. Everything's great. You're with me. You're pulling the strings. You're embracing me at all times. So this is like a sense of security. And it finally concludes with almost like a party. Verse 6. And now my head will be lifted above all my enemies, and I shall therefore offer in His temple sacrifice of joy. I shall sing and give praise to the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. By the way, if you realize, this paragraph begins, the first word of this paragraph, it's not your fault, but if you really want to learn Bible, you better learn Hebrew. But even here we see, the first word is Adonai. And the final word of this paragraph is also Adonai. It begins with Adonai Ori V'ishi. Well, I'm skipping the first word because the first word, David just says it's David's song. It begins with Adonai. It concludes in verse 6, Ashira v'azamra Adonai. God is surrounding me. It's the beginning, it's the end. I'm in God's world. I want to be in His house, and that's my dream, and everything is wonderful. In the second half, we're actually changing the totally attitude. A person is begging to God. And the answer is that each and every one of us goes through these two different phases of modes. There are times where we're sure God is with us. There are times where we're just, all we want to do is be there within in God's house, and He'll be there with us all the time. We feel like God is pouring from heaven all of His love to us. And there are points where we're the opposite. We're begging Him. We're really approaching Him. And we're saying to Him, please, I need your help. I need, and it's like coming from down up. And it's like facing God and begging Him to please help us. We see, by the way, that many terminology, many words, phrases that appear in both halves. So we really see the two halves really are really parallel to each other because they're the same person. And by the way, just enough to point out, in both parts, God's name is mentioned 6 times. But we know that in the Bible, there's a number 7. In the final verse, 14, God's mentioned twice. Hope for God and hope for God. It's the seventh time of the both halves. Because God said both of these halves are beautiful. When we come to the temple, and sometimes we feel the divine presence of God coming down, pouring down His light at us. And there are sometimes we're coming to the temple and begging God, please, we're bringing an offering. So sometimes the movement is from down up, sometimes it's from up down. And that is the whole thing. Hope for God when you're feeling great. Don't think it's all yours. Remember that it's God. Hope for God when you're in distress. Be strong, because you need to be strong in both times. And that's what the whole thing says. So when you see the whole Psalms here, in the structure of how it is, you see how the beauty of the Psalm, both halves, by the way, the exact same size, showing us that every person goes through these kind of different things. They don't contradict themselves. They are the comprehensive action, they are the comprehension presence of a believer in God. Amen. And if this is the issue on a personal level, it's definitely the issue on a national level. Sometimes as a people we feel God is accompanying us and He's winning our wars and everything is going great. And sometimes things are not going so simple. Sometimes we have settlements that are uprooted. Sometimes the wars are not going so simple. Sometimes there are victims and we don't understand and we beg Him. And these are not contradictory. They're comprehensive things. And this is the way a person who wants to live in God's hand, in God's life, and wants God in his life. Live with God. Hope for God. Be strong and hope for God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. And now I will... Oh. When you get to my age, you once in a while forget. Especially when I have to speak, I forget the whole world. We were supposed to open this event with Rabbi Ilan Adler singing Hatikva. So I'm sorry I forgot. Rabbi Ilan Adler, don't worry, I'm not going to give a lesson again. We'll have Rabbi The words are on the page given out by courtesy of Israel 365 on your table. Thank you very much. Zion is also the name of Israel, it's also the name of Jerusalem. And as the book of Psalms chapter 2 says, then, but I have set my king upon Zion, my holy hill. Which means the Temple Mount is also called Zion. And it's important for us to remind ourselves that we're here for the sake of God. We're here for the sake of His chosen people. We're here for the sake of His chosen land. And we're here for the sake of His divine presence, which is always on Temple Mount. Thank you very much. And I also want to mention and thank all the Hayuvel people who are here. Volunteer in the mountains of Samaria, in Har Bracha, until Har Bracha becomes a city, then you'll have to find a new place. And they really give themselves to the people of Israel. Even though it's because of their interest, because God promised He'll bless anybody who gets blessed Israel. So we know that you do it for your interest. But we love you also because God promised us that we should love all human beings. And therefore we really would like to thank so much all the people who volunteer for Hayovel and the Rabbi and Mr. Tommy Waller, who is the chairman and initiator of Hayovel. Well, thank you very, very, very much. We are now continuing with the next sponsor of this event. Sitting to my right, Rabbi Tuli Weiss from Israel 365, from Breaking Israel News, and from the Yeshiva for the Nations. The Yeshiva for the Nations is once again part of a process. When God promised that we're going to be coming back to Israel, and we're back to Israel, and we're going to settle in the mountains of our forefathers, our ancestors, and we've settled in our land of our forefathers, ancestors in Judea and Samaria, and we're going to come back to Jerusalem, and we're back in Jerusalem. And the next step, God says, the world will recognize Jerusalem. And we've seen it begin. Against all odds, if I would have told you 2 years ago that the next president of the United States will recognize Jerusalem, it would be impossible. And we have many people who are involved in a process of teaching Torah to the nations. I saw my dear friend, Rabbi Gidon Ariel, in his process of root source. And one of the great people who speak out and teach Torah to the nations is Rabbi Tuli Weiss, who established a yeshiva for the nations. Amen. Teaching Isaiah 2. Rabbi Weiss, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Yehuda. This is such an honor for me personally to be able to just enter the building of the Knesset. It's so exciting. Get goosebumps just walking in, and to be able to share some words of Torah is a real privilege. I also want to thank the Schindler Society, who, as Rabbi Yehuda explained, is all about bringing Bible study not only to Congress and not only to the United Nations, but to the Knesset, and for a non-Jewish group to have it in their heart to share the love of the Bible all the way to Israel. And it's really it's the power, the personalities of Pastor Jim Garlow and his wife Rosemary Schindler, who are so dedicated to Bible study. And they've invited a very special couple who are here today. I want to acknowledge Chaim and Celia Bao, who are descendants of Schindler's Jews. Who's Joseph Bao, who was rescued by Oscar Schindler, who are here with Joseph Bao's artwork, who said a long time ago that there will be a day where the nations will come to Israel, and his family didn't believe him, nobody believed him, but he was right.
And that's the painting to prove it.
Exactly. So his beautiful paintings are here. So today's study is really dedicated in honor of the Schindler Society, and we pray that they will only continue to bring more Torah study to Washington, D.C., to New York, and of course to Jerusalem. Next time I'm at an event, though, I have to, at least that I have to remember to only speak before Rabbi Yehuda Kling, not to speak after him. There's nothing left to say. We can all go home because he said it all. But as Rabbi Yehuda said, the idea that in the end of days there will be many miracles unfolding, the ingathering of the people of Israel, the restoration of the beautiful land of Israel, and then of course the revolution of Torah study, the revolution of Torah, is also something that was promised by the Bible a long time ago. And that is our foundational scripture, that is our foundational verse that Donna Jolet, who started the Yeshiva for the Nations, was very much focused on bringing forth Isaiah 2. When we were together on Mount Zion, where it says, "From Zion shall come forth the Torah." So together we had this idea of starting a yeshiva for non-Jews to study the Torah from a Jewish perspective. And since then, we've been starting yeshiva. Since then, we've been putting together a very, very special initiative, the Israel Bible, which you all have in front of you. And many of you have the book, the Israel Bible on Isaiah. And for those who don't have the book, everybody hopefully has the handout, the pamphlet. And we're going to learn together the book of Isaiah, not the whole book, but at least Isaiah 2, our foundational scripture. And if you turn your packages, it's page 957 in the package. In the 4-page package, it's page 957. Or if you have the book, it's on page 19 of the book. We'll start reading together Isaiah chapter 2, okay? And what's amazing about the Israel Bible is even if you don't speak or read Hebrew, we're going to teach you Hebrew from the Israel Bible. This is the first Bible that is dedicated exclusively to honoring the land of Israel and the people of Israel and the God of Israel. There's a lot of Bibles on the shelves, but the Israel Bible is unique in that way. And we're about to launch a 2,000-page hardcover version in honor of Yom HaAtzmaut, in honor of Israel's 70th, in just a couple of weeks, by the same company, this Koren, the same company who makes the official Bible of the land of Israel, the Koren Tanakh. We're working with them. This is their Tanakh also, the Knesset's Bible. We're working with them on the Israel Bible. It's going to be ready in just a couple of weeks. And we're very, very excited to announce it here today at the Knesset. So that's something.
I'm hereby welcoming member of Knesset, Robert Ilatov, who is the chairman of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, and we'll be hearing a few words from him after Rabbi Tuli Weiss' lesson.
Thank you very much, Member Knesset, Reverend Yeshua. Thank you very much for joining us today. So let's study together. Like Rabbi Yehuda did, we're going to study, we're going to learn Tanakh together. Chapter 2, verse 1. The word of Yeshayahu, son of Amos, prophesied concerning Yehuda and Yerushalayim. In the days to come, or in Hebrew, Ba'acharit hayamim, or it also means in the end of days, the mountain of Hashem's house shall stand firm above the mountains and tower above the hills, and all the nations shall gaze on it with joy. We're going to study in a minute what that word means, shall gaze on it. We'll study about that in a second, but I wanted to focus now on the next verse, V'alchu amim rabim, okay? And I wanted to not only study it, but also read it together.
Welcome, member of Knesset, my dear friend, Sharon Haskell. We get a special congratulations today, after yesterday, her first major legislation for freedom of communication, of media in Israel, passed in the Knesset. She really did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Member Knesset Haskell, for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you here with us. And you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked because you're in a room full of Jews and non-Jews who are all going to read Yeshayahu, Perek, Bet, Pasuk, Gimel in Hebrew. In Hebrew. Everyone is going to read it in Hebrew. Okay? That's why we've transliterated the key verses in the Israel Bible. Do you have it? It's
Verse 3.
Verse 3.
Page 20 on the big book.
In the gray box, okay? We'll read it slowly. We'll read it slowly. V'halchu amim rabim v'amru l'chu v'na'aleh el har Adonai el beit Elohei Yaakov v'yorenu b'drachav v'nelcha b'orchotav ki mitzion tetzeh Torah u'dvar Adonai b'Yerushalayim. Wow, good job, everybody. Yeah, you're fluent. Isaiah.
Hallelujah.
It says that in the end of days, the non-Jews are going to come to Jerusalem, and they're going to say, teach us, because from Zion shall come forth the Torah. And we're seeing that happen. That's just the greatest miracle that nobody's talking about until now, until the Israel Bible, until this session of Tanakh study at the Knesset. It's really something very, very special. I want to share with you This is something that the Jewish people have always believed in, that the Torah belongs to the Jewish people and the entire world. That God gave it to the Jewish people in order to give it to the entire world, right? That's an idea that we have in our tradition. That's not a new idea. Isaiah was the first one to identify it. Isaiah described how it's going to happen in the future. However, it's throughout our literature. It's even in the Talmud. The Talmud says that the word in this verse, the Talmud is basically a commentary on the Bible, okay? And so it goes almost verse by verse, and it asks questions, and it has debates. So the Talmud says, what is this word here, v'naharu elav kol hagoyim? All of the goyim are going to v'naharu elav. What does that mean, v'naharu elav? Right? What does that word mean, v'naharu elav?
Usually when you stream to there.
They will stream like the word nahar, right?
River.
The river, okay? So the Israel Bible translated, all the nations will gaze on it. They will gaze on it, okay? That's not our translation. So we use the JPS translation. They translate it as to gaze. You know what the Talmud says? No, the word nahar, it means like, because how could there be a city at the top of a mountain? And how could a river flow up the mountain? Rivers flow down mountains. And rather, the Talmud says that the city of Jerusalem, where the non-Jews are going to go there, the nations will see the light from the word or. So the word light, Jerusalem will radiate, illuminate the entire world. And that's what it means, Zion shall come forth, the Torah. That it will be a source of light for the entire world. And because we're coming together, non-Jews are saying, teach us the Torah. Like, they're not saying, we're going to tell you what it says in the Bible. They're saying to teach us the Bible. And that is something that after all these generations, where the Bible was something that was used to separate and to divide Jews and non-Jews, now for the first time in our history, the Bible is something that Jews and non-Jews are coming together, and it is a source of unity for all of God's children.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rabbi Cooley, and thank you for also following the time schedule, and so we'll be able to have time for as many people to express themselves. Before our next speaker, Rabbi Yishai Fleischer, who you were all striving to hear his words, you're going to have to suffer from a little more curiosity and listen to wonderful words from member of Knesset, Robert Ilatov, who is the chairman of the Knesset Christian Caucus, and then we'll hear member of Knesset Sharon Haskell. But both of them are instructed to remain after they speak to listen to the next lesson.
That's right. Lock the door.
Lock doors. Sophia, that's your job. Member of Knesset Ilatov, please.
יהודה, כל עוד הפתעת אותי, אז אני אפתיע אותך גם, אתה תתרגם אותי.
אוקיי.
אני בדרך כלל משתדל לדבר עברית באירועים כאלה.
I try to speak Hebrew in these kind of events. אני גם מפתיע.
אין בעיה. מכיוון שזו גם הזדמנות שלכם לשמוע קצת עברית בארץ ישראל.
Because it's your opportunity to hear Hebrew, a little Hebrew in the land of Israel as well.
קודם כל, ברוכים הבאים, אני רוצה לברך את יהודה גליק, שהוא באמת תפס את היוזמה. באו אליי חברים אוונגליסטים שלנו, וביקשו לקיים את האירוע, והוא ברגע שהוא שמע, הוא באמת חיבר את הפרויקט שלו בכנסת, את השדולה שלו בכנסת עם החברים שלנו.
So he wants to thank Knesset member Yehuda Glick, who kind of picked up the glove and immediately was able to organize with friends from the outside who wanted to teach Bible in Knesset. He took his own caucus here, the Bible, what's it called? The caucus for the encouraging of the study of Tanakh, of the Bible in the Knesset. And so congratulations, Yehuda Glick.
הוא גם חבר הכנסת גליק מאוד פעיל בשדולה עם הקשר עם העולם הנוצרי.
And Yehuda Glick is also, Rabbi Yehuda Glick is also very active in the caucus for the connection with
Christian Caucus.
Knesset Christian Caucus, which is Christian Allies Caucus, which connects Israel to the world.
ואין ספק שהאירוע שהיום אנחנו נמצאים בו הוא אחד היסודות החשובים ביותר. ספר תנ"ך הוא בעצם היסוד של האמונה באל אחד.
So this is an important event because the Bible is the foundation of the faith in one God. Amen.
לכן אני רוצה להודות לך, יהודה, על כך שאתה פועל רבות לחיבור ולשלום בין שני האמונות, היהודית והנוצרית, אבל היסוד הוא ספר תנ"ך, ואין ספק שזה דבר מאוד חשוב שאתה עושה בו.
I want to thank you and congratulate you, Rabbi Yehuda Glick, for your work to connect different peoples, especially the Jews and Christians, but I would add even many others, if you know, also Muslims. Friends.
כי הספר הזה שאתם קוראים בו היום הוא כתוב בעברית.
This book that you're reading today is written in Hebrew. Was written in Hebrew. Its origins are in Hebrew, of course.
יום אחד יבוא וכולכם תדברו עברית.
One day will come and you'll all speak Hebrew, the language of the Hebrew name.
תודה רבה, יהודה.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Sharon Haskell, you're going to speak in what language? With surprise. Okay, we're going to have a surprise. What language will
Can
you
I
speak?
speak in French? Bonjour à tout le monde. I'll speak in English. I want to say it was important for me to come here, and I always say there's no coincidence, right? And as I entered the verse that you read, Yehuda, I think is the verse that would symbolize you more than anything else.
We're supposed to be speaking the Tanakh today.
I
How does that mean?
are. And it's just the special energy and the special connection that you have with people from all around the world, religious people, non-religious people, how you speak to them, how you bring them closer to you, closer to Israel and closer to Jerusalem, whether they're Jews, Christian, Muslims, from all around the world. And I think this is the sentence of what it's about. And this is what is so beautiful about you. More than that, the fact that in that small verse they speak about the mountain of God, that everybody together, joined together, will go up to the house of God. And what is the house of God if not the Temple Mount? And what a great honor it would be to walk everybody together, all the nation, with the person who literally would take a bullet for the house of God. So, 4 minutes, okay. 4, yeah, 4. So I just want to say it was important for me to come here to share this moment with you. We know that history repeats itself, and we've seen how the Bible have repeated itself time after time over and over again, including the foundation of Israel, the reviving of the Hebrew language, as my dear friend Robert Ilado, who also is leading the Christian caucus from all around the world as well. It is so important. And the fact that we have this amazing miracle of this country and we're able to sit in the modern Knesset with the representative of the Jewish people as well and study together this ancient book that every single verse you can still learn about current things that are happening still today. How you can see how the book is turning into a reality and the history is repeating itself over and over again. So it's a great honor that I have to sit here with you today. And thank you so much for hosting me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As we say, you asked for it. The two of you are really wonderful friends. Robert Ilata, besides being the chairman of the the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, he initiated for the first time. If we're speaking about learning the Word of God, and I spoke before about God's Word coming from up, and the opposite is prayer. And Robert initiated a wonderful initiative this year, which we do annually. It's called the Prayer Breakfast.
Jerusalem.
The Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, excuse me. The Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. The big difference. The Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. It's really something so exciting to see people from all over the world talking to God. And Sharon Haskell, who's really the representative, the symbol of the Knesset for liberalism. And we truly believe that God wants us all to be, we didn't choose democracy because, we had no choice. We truly believe that God wants each and every one of us to have freedom of choice, to be able to choose, not through coercion, not forcing anybody, but truly choose His way of expressing His faith in God in this world. And I think that's the beauty of Colonel Sharon Haskell, who served in the Israeli army, in the border police, and she's also a veterinarian nurse, and she's also a vegetarian. That's also that's a different story. We'll have to overcome the question of offering. But ladies and gentlemen, finally we reach the point. Rabbi Yishai Fleischer, the floor is yours.
Okay, everybody, this is exciting, huh? This is really, truly exciting for me. I remember when Rabbi Tully and Donna called me, they said, do you want to teach Bible at the Knesset? Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that opportunity. I'll do that. To my left is Sharon Haskell. By the way, it's Sharon. Am I not right? Sharon, not Sharon. Okay, Sharon. She speaks highly about the Bible, but she doesn't just talk about it. She comes to the town that I work in, Hebron, where the mothers and the fathers are buried, and she walks around with the Bible teaching people. She becomes like a tour guide there. And she's in Hebron almost every other month, really showing the mothers and the fathers and the story of the Bible come to life. So this book is not just a book in a library, it's a book in her hands when she comes to Hebron. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for the courage. Thank you to Knesset member Ilatov. When we have with us a person like Yehuda Glick, I don't want to do any more for him because he's blushing and he's already reddish, so it's too much red. So, but we do know that we have a person who's a miracle, a walking miracle, in many ways, and a man of courage, and yet a man of love. And it's not true that he's only a friend of Christians. Last time I was in his office, there were folks from Turkey there, pro-Israel Muslims, and they were just meeting us. I got in there just to meet him for something else, and in a few months...
And then you found yourself in Turkey.
Right, a few months later, I'm in Istanbul, in the middle of the night, being driven by bodyguards in a fast Mercedes. I thought it was James Bond. In any case, it was great times. Rabbi Tully is doing an amazing job. And I remember when Rabbi Tully started all this, and it was, I didn't see how big it would get, and I realize now that it could be much, much bigger. Recently, there was a group of about 50 Chinese evangelical Christians in Hebron. So I gave them a tour, and it wasn't so easy to communicate. And I said to them, "How many more of you are out there?" "Oh, 100 million." So there's a lot more people out there that can be connected. And of course the Garlows, who are doing amazing things. I met Pastor Jim and Rosemary. And by the way, if you look up Rosemary Schindler Garlow, you'll find that she has a link to a video called a movie called Voyage of the Damned. Did you guys watch this, Voyage of the Damned? It's about the St. Louis. It's about the Jewish people being on a boat out of Germany. And nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. They got nowhere to go. Not even Cuba. Nobody wants them. And that was called Voyage of the Damned. And look at us today, learning Bible in the Knesset. We're Voyage of the Blessed. Right? Voyage of those who have seen the light. So we have a lot to be thankful for. We have so much to be thankful for these incredible miracles. And of course, I also want to... does anybody smell that? You guys smell something? What do you smell? Do you smell that? I smell the fields of Samaria. You smell that? There they are coming. Look at them. They didn't even get a chance to put on their suits and ties. They're coming right from the fields of Samaria. And the Waller family has been an amazing inspiration to me. And Tommy Waller is a kind of Jethro figure, you know what I mean? And if you've seen the video, the movie Prince of Egypt, he looks a little bit like the Jethro Prince of Egypt, right? You see that? And I tell you honestly, and I mean this with full truth, is that he's a wise man. And I oftentimes can call him just for wisdom. Just to talk to him about issues, I don't know, marital issues or something, because he's got a lot to give in many ways, certainly in the ways of God, but also in the ways of wisdom. And I want to thank you and your whole family and all the folks that are here from the Hayuvel organization. Okay, let's have some fun. What are we all about here? I guess we're all about redemption, right? We're all about redemption. And by the way, I have so many friends I could say hi to here. All my good friends, my friend Rivka has just put out a book about redemption and the Gentiles. Any case, what? Am I right? There it is. There's the book. All right. So we're here really to talk about a redemptive period. I want to go back to an almost redemptive period. A moment where there could have been redemption, but shucks, just missed it. Just missed it. Dang, that was a bad moment. And that was when the Jewish people were coming out of Egypt. We're coming out of Egypt and we're about to approach the land of Israel. Did it take 40 years to get to the land of Israel? No, of course not. That's almost a common misunderstanding. It didn't take 40 years. It took a few months. They get to the edge of after they receive the Torah, they get to the edge of the land of Israel. They're about to go in, and the Jewish people say to Moses, send in the spies. Let's do it as a military operation. Sure, there's God with us, but let's at least kind of go with it in the this world kind of way, right? You know the story? They send in 12 spies. They were the top of the top, the best of the best. And they go to the land of Israel. When they come back, 10 of the spies give a bad report. What's a bad report? We can't do it. They're too big for us. They're much bigger than us. The land is scary. The land eats its inhabitants. And 2 spies, who were they? Come on, folks. Joshua and Caleb say no. And Caleb ben Yefuneh, Caleb the son of Jephunneh, he says to the nation, he says, Alo na'aleh ki yachol nuchala. We shall indeed be able to rise up and go to the land of Israel. We can do it. We can do it. Don't be afraid. We can do it. God is with us. They don't even have a shadow on them, says the Bible. They're with us. God is with us. And God punishes all that generation that accepted the report of the evil spies, the spies that told the frightful report. And Caleb and Joshua get rescued. They're going to be with the nation for 40 years in the desert. And subsequently, they're going to actually enter with the Jewish nation to the land of Israel. Now, what does God say about Caleb? What does he say about him? He gives him an accolade. What does he say about him, folks? Come on.
He's a different spirit.
Let me hear that. That's right. He had a different spirit, I think. V'avdi Kalev ekev hayta ruach acheret imo. My servant Caleb had a different spirit. Is that the best thing to say? Is that the nicest thing to say? He had a different spirit. How about you go to kindergarten and pick up your kid and they say, well, your little Johnny, he's a little different. Is that exactly the finest thing to say about Caleb? Why don't you say he had a spirit of God? He had a spirit of netzach, of victory. He had a ruach of gvura. He was courageous. What is this thing? He was different. That's not special. He was different. So this bothered me to no end because Caleb is my kind of personal hero. And I thought about this, and here it's really time, as Rabbi Ladov said, to learn a little Hebrew. So I took the word acheret, which means different, and I split it up. Because you could do that sometimes, especially if you're Hasidically inclined. And I split it up, and I divided it to ruach, the spirit. Acheret, I divided it to achara, tough. Post, the letter tough. What is the letter tough? The last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Do you know the numerical equivalent of the... I'm finishing up. Do you know the numerical value of tough? 400. Okay, Gentile friends? The tough, the last letter in the alphabet, is equivalent to 400. Achar, when I split it up into 2 words, achar tough means post 400. What does 400 symbolize in Judaism? Well, it symbolizes the purchase of the Marat Machpelah, the tomb of the forefathers by Abraham for 400 shekel. But what else does 400 mean to us? I say 400, you think?
Years in Egypt.
That's right. They don't call him rabbi for nothing. Okay? 400 means 400 years of slavery in Egypt. Guess what? Caleb had a ruach, he had a spirit that was achar tough. He was post 400. He was post slavery. He was ready to come out. When it was time to go to the land of Israel, he's like, here I am. I'm ready to go in. We can. This is it. This is the moment. Where was everybody else? They were still in slavery. They were still back there. They're still thinking that old way. They've got slavery inside of them. And they're still stuck. And what we need in a time, a redemptive moment, when there's an opportunity, you got to be post 400. You got to be post slavery. You got to be like, whoa, this is happening now. And I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of it now because I understand that God is doing great things. It's simple math. The biblical prophecies are coming true. We see it. Here we are in the Knesset in Jerusalem with these incredible Knesset members and incredible Gentiles from all over the world. Something is happening. It's in the book. Okay? It's in that book. It's in this book. And so that is the lesson of Caleb, to be post-400, to be post-slavery, and to realize where we are right now, and to walk into the land of Israel. To walk right in. God bless you, everybody. Thank you very much. And may God bless us to be post-400 and in this moment of redemption.
Actually, I thought we were referring to achar tough. After it'll be tough and easy. So after things are tough, things get good and easy. But we really have so many wonderful people here with us today. I really want to point out, for instance, David Solomon from South Africa and his wonderful, beautiful wife, Louise, who are here with us. They're lovers of God, lovers of God. In a few minutes, we're going to hear the Rosh Yeshiva, the establisher of the Yeshiva of the Nations, the Dane Jolly, who's going to take questions from the readers who are watching us on the program on the Facebook. So we're going to take some questions from them. But before we do that, I keep getting special information and instruction. Before we do that, as was mentioned before, we have here with us Mrs. Bao, Mrs. Tivia Bao, Tzlia Bao, and she is the daughter of the artist Joseph Bao, who is of the Oscar Schindler survivors, and we are here, though some people in the world are trying to help us forget and deny our past. We are going ahead. We're not going to forgive any of the past, but we're not going to hold revenge in our heart, just like we're meeting Christians, even though in the name of Christianity there were people who did wrong things in the past through history. We are taking the positive side, and we're taking the energies that we received from those survivors and from people who've gone through things, and we're going to try to transform them into the good and the positive and the light. So I want to invite Mrs. Tzlia Bao to give us some words in the name also of Jim Garlow and Rosemary Schindler Garlow, who are here with us with their heart, 100%. Jim and Rosemary, I know you're watching us. You are here with us. Every one of us, we know you are here. And you listen right now to Mrs. Bao, and you will hear that Jim and Rosemary are also with us 100%.
Thank you very much. You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just press, there's a button there, maybe press and turn it on.
Okay.
Now we hear you much better.
So, first of all, I'm representing Jim and Rosemary Schindler Garlow. And we are, I'm the daughter of Joseph Bowers, who said he was one of the survivors of Oscar Schindler. And I'm so excited, I'm in tears, because my father said in the 50s, he said that all the nations one day will come to Israel, and this is the painting that he did. He said all the nations will come to Jerusalem, like Jerusalem, here we come. And this is what his prophecy was. And this is the prophecy that Jim and Rosemary, according to our father's prophecy, are continuing their And that's how it all started here, this all gathering. And I'm very excited that my father says that the most important chapter in the Bible is Isaiah chapter 2, and exactly today, this is what we are learning here. And this is so exciting for me. And I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we don't have the most important, every one of those facts are important, and we're with it. I don't see where Donna is right now. There she is. Is she going to be coming with us? Maybe we'll have some questions. Meanwhile, I want to once again say a few words of thanks to some very wonderful guests we have here. I see Mrs. Jane Kiel, who is really the Jane of Israel, Jane, one Israel, Jerusalem Jane. And we have here Tivia Fox, who's taking pictures of us, photographing us and bringing us to the world, to the Facebook. And really, we have so many wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people there with us. Donna, do you have any questions already with us, or are we still...
So we're going to, we don't have any yet, they will put out to ask.
Okay.
So we'll come on here.
Okay, so maybe, meanwhile, while you're collecting questions, we'll
Actually,
maybe...
can I say something real quick though?
And were you well behaved this morning? So we'll give you another chance.
So I just want to share something that is so poignant to me because almost exactly 1 year ago, it was on January 31st, I was blessed to come to attend the Bible study here at the Knesset that you moved to MK Rabbi Glick. And at that study, I think I may have been the only Gentile in the room. And I can remember at one point you said, someday this room is going to be filled with Jews and Gentiles together studying Torah. And I'm here to say, this is that day. And so, got a few friends with me.
In this part of the world, we have to get used to the fact that every single day we have miracles here, and we don't take it for granted. We really praise God. So before you find us some more questions, and before Rabbi Adler sings for us Kimi Tzion, we'll ask Mrs. or Tommy Waller. One of you will choose which one of you will share some words of wisdom from your heart, which were planted in your heart by God Himself.
I think I'll ask a question. You, Rabbi
You have to raise your hand. Tommy, yes, please.
Because you always say that we have to ask more questions. You don't need to make statements. You need to ask more questions. It's one thing I've learned since I've been here is to stop making statements and ask questions. There's a lot of people here. Tell me briefly. We have a lot of people here that are going to leave. And they need to go. They need to keep going from here with the message. And why is it necessary for non-Jews to be excited about the Temple Mount? Why do we need to be engaged in this issue? We understand the Jews. We understand, your radical place on this. But we're sitting next to some people on our plane on the way home. What's our discussion? What do we say? Non-Jews. Why?
Well, I'll try to give you my answer the way I understand it, but once again, that's the way I understand it. If anybody wants to share a better answer, you're welcome to it. We spoke about the 400 years in Egypt. We are witnessing a much greater miracle. In Egypt, we were 400 years in one country. In the exile, we were 2,000 years in 200 different countries. Egypt is like 300 miles from here. Ethiopia is like 5,000 miles from here. And God was not a tourist agent. He didn't want us to taste the different kitchens in different cities. He didn't want us to really have treks and see if we can climb ropes in different Niagara Falls. He wanted us to bring it back and come back to the city He chose, to the nation He chose, to be an essence of all nations. Because the opposite of Jerusalem is Babylon, where everybody's the same and only one speaking one language, and whether you're Ukrainian or Armenian or Latvian or Lithuanian, you speak Russian and you have Lenin in your backyard. Jerusalem is the inclusiveness of God. Because the greatest danger of the world are those who are exclusive. But now I want to point out one more thing. In the past few years, there's been an attempt in the world to blur identities. We're all the European Union. No identities. No, we don't have identities. Men, women, no, we're all genders. Guys, people were created with identities. You can be proud of your identity, whether you're in Indonesian or Brazilian or Moroccan. Be proud of who you are, male or female. Be proud of who you are. When you're proud of who you are, and you have self-confidence, the fact that you're proud of who you are does not mean you lower other people. It means you respect other people, because that's the beauty of it all. We're all part of one beautiful symphony. Did you ever go see an orchestra where everybody's playing the drum? It doesn't work. You need the harp, and you need the violin, and you need the trumpet, and you need... That's the symphony. And we're here, God chose the people of Israel not to be isolated from the world. Every one of our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, was a father of the people of Israel, but a father of all nations, of all families of the earth. And therefore, our obligation is to take the light from the light of the universe, Jerusalem, and bring it to the world. You know, we have like some kind of characteristics, mainly if you're men. If you see something, the first thing you want to do is, how am I going to criticize him? I'm going to find something wrong with him. But the world, God teaches us, no, you see somebody, bring light to him. Compliment him. Thank him. Listen to him. Be sympathetic to him. We will add so much light to this world. And none of us will threaten each other. Rather, we will all be one beautiful harmony. And Jerusalem symbolizes that one beautiful harmony. Thank you. We have a Facebook question. Do we have a Facebook question? No, we have?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay, so actually this is actually really special to me too. It says Israel 365 and Yeshiva for the Nations is having a trip to Israel in May. Will we be visiting the Knesset? And the answer is yes.
Yes, okay. Let me just check one second. The answer is... Yes, the answer is yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting to hear the words, and we said in Hebrew, from Zion will come out Torah, and the word of God from Jerusalem, Rabbi Ilan Adler, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah.
Wow, thank you. So the words are here.
And not thank me, it's the paper that I have, and that's what they tell me to do. I'm trying to be obedient, even though I never was in school.
On page 20, if you'd like to follow along, we have about 5 minutes, and then unfortunately I have to leave. This has been a tremendous blessing. We have a dinner with the Prime Minister, so we really
do. You prefer dinner with the Prime Minister over a dinner with Isaiah?
Okay, this is enough all this.
Does everybody see where the words are? It's
Yes,
in the...
it's on page 20, and you'll see it's in the verse that we were studying together, top of page 20.
Or it's in the booklet. It's also in the booklet on page 957 in the gray box in the transliteration on the last line, the third line of the transliteration.
Right, and also in here, page 20, the last line of the transliteration. So, all right, I'm going to sing it, and if you know it, join me. If not, we'll try to sing it twice. And if you don't know it by then, how long do we have?
We have to be home by the end of June.
Yerushalayim
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies. Short little surprise. I don't know if you see, I have a little pin on my jacket. Can anybody figure out what this is? Well, it is.
Or is it the Nano Bible?
It is
The Bible.
the smallest Bible in the world. And I want to invite Mike Cohen, who is here. It's, by the way, it's in the Guinness Book of World Record. If you have a very good eyesight, which is like the eyesight of a microscope, which we have over there in the corner, and you can time what you have here 10,000 times, you'll be able to see it real, read it like perfectly. But Mike Cohen, can you come here for a second and tell us a little bit about this Nano Tanakh Bible, the smallest Bible in the world, and you're all going to go home today with a Bible you'll be able to carry with you.
Usually using to stand, but the custom here is to sit. When people stand up, they usually get thrown out. I also have too many friends in this room to say hi to everybody, so I'm just going to say hi to everybody. How you all doing? The Jerusalem Nano Bible was invented a couple years ago by a gentleman from the south of Israel, a place called Ofakim. And he saw, he was a photojournalist, and he saw that all these millions of circuits are being placed in Israel on a modern miracle. You know, when God brought the Jewish people back to Israel in 1948, He gave us three things. He gave us lots and lots and lots of sand. He gave us lots and lots and lots of sun. And He gave us lots and lots of neighbors who encouraged us to use the first two in order to survive. So what did we do? We took tubes and we stuck holes in them, and we helped Africa come back to life by teaching them new ways of irrigation and saving water. And then we taught ourselves that, and we grew cotton and other things like that, and we became a major player in the clothing industry. And as time went on, we went into the high-tech business because Israelis are best, Jews are best, at taking this and saying, wait a minute, if I do this, what could it do? And that's basically what happened with this. All this is sand. Everything on the planet today runs on sand. God's light and God's sand. If everybody in the world understood that, could you imagine the power of that? Can I get an amen from somebody? Amen. Nobody said that. I was waiting. Nobody said that. Okay. All right. Now, what he did was, he spent 1 year and 8 months trying to figure out how to get the sand to absorb letters as opposed to circuits. And he came up with the Jerusalem Nano Bible, which is a 4.77 by 4.77 millimeter square, typical square from a notebook, square notebook. And it's used in pins and awards and all kinds of other things in order to help ministries grow. Because every person who has a heart for this, God basically said one thing. He said, put it as a symbol on your heart. But then he said, put it on your head, put it on your arm, and put it on the doorpost, and Moses is looking down from the mountain and saying, wait a minute, where am I going to get all this rock? And we're going to carry, in Yiddish, it's schlep. We're going to schlep this through the desert with us? No. Okay, take a little blood, put it on the doorpost. Smear it on the doorpost. Okay? And we'll figure out the rest later. And ever since then, ever since Deuteronomy 6, Jews have been trying to figure out how to synthesize the Bible in a way that we can carry it with us all the time. I'm not saying that this is religiously accepted. Not yet. But it is definitely the first synthesis of the entire Bible that you can carry with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're in surgery or in battle or teaching. And I have one in my pocket all the time. Now, every time I take out the microscope, it's a fantastic test. Because every time I take out the microscope and I start turning it to see what I can see, and as it comes clear, I know what God wants me to say. Okay? I have a direct line. And what he told me today, very simply, was, now this, I learned this from one of my Christian friends. He calls me up one day, 3:30 in the morning in Israel, and he says, God just woke me up. He said, you have to get to the Knesset right now and tell Rabbi Glick to tell all 120 Knesset members to get down on their hands and knees, and if they do that, it'll be rain. And he was serious. He kept calling me. Did you call him? Did you call him? I said, you can't get 100, you can't get 10 Knesset members to do anything in this place, let alone 120. Anyways, what he says is, "Uftuye Asher yishivun, uba'u Tzion berina, v'simchat olam al rosham, sason v'simcha yasigu, nasu ye'on v'anacha." I'm not going to translate it because all of you know Isaiah 51. You all know in this room. I'm just going to correct because we're in the Knesset, so I am going to correct my learned colleague from the right. He is on my right. In many, many, many ways.
All of us, everybody here is right. There's no wrong here.
Right. There is no one in this room, according to my rabbi, who's a Gentile. Everybody in this room is either a Jew or a Christian. And therefore, we're all people of the book, all people of God, all part of the same future, and therefore, you are not part of the nations anymore. Once you become Christian, you are no longer part of the nations, my rabbi teaches us. So therefore he says, please don't use the word Gentile with them. Teach them not to use the word Gentile with themselves. Say non-Jews or say Christians, but not Gentiles. And that's, you could disagree with me, but that's what my rabbi taught.
Mike is a Kohen, is a priest, but I want to point out one other thing, that what Mike told me yesterday, the idea came from Ofakim. The actually printing is in Migdal HaEmek.
In the Galilee.
In the Galilee. And the synthesis is in Sderot, which is a city in the south, which has also been mentioned in the news lately, but now it's there. And
sorry. So the Bible is made in the Galilee. The pins and the different memorabilia are made down in the Negev, and they're put together. They're synthesized by special needs factors.
Special needs factors. Really is really meant to recall a couple. But so, as I said before,
and the greatest marketer of this in the world, I don't market this commercially.
That's exactly so.
The greatest commercial marketer is over there, Tully White's with Israel 365. They're the number one marketer of
that was my next sentence. Thank you, Mike. Mike will be giving each one of you one of these at the end. But tell people, go on to Israel 365, and you can purchase it for your communities. And you can really, it's really something. I want to tell you. Ever since I had it, it really, it's you know, it feels something. It's like feel responsible. When I talk to somebody else, you know, the Bible's here. I better do it the way you should do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can invite people to go on to Israel 365 and get your Nano Bible, and really, it's so wonderful. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here with us today.
Just last phrase from me. Just one thing about this Bible, Nano Bible, and also Tommy's question. There's a verse I think that we should all know. It's so short, and it answers exactly what we're doing here today. It's the book of Numbers, chapter 14, verse 21. But as I live, the glory of Hashem shall fill the entire world. That's it. That's the answer to your question, Tommy. The glory of Hashem is going to fill the world, and this Bible that we're carrying, it's part of that. Glory of Hashem filling the world.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to really thank, first of all, my friend Rabbi Tully Weiss and the wonderful project of Israel 365, the one little project of the Israel Bible, and it's really, every page you turn, it's really wonderful. And I want to thank Mr. Waller.
Wait, we have also...
A little surprise. Okay. I always think I decide what happens here, but I guess. Okay, behind my back, things have been going on here. Okay, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sophia, Donna.
Yeah, so actually, just real quick, I have a message here that from the Garlows, and it says, "Let them know we're watching and we love the teaching." So I just wanted to share that with you.
Let them know we love them very much.
So the Jewish calendar, as everybody is aware, is in the month of Adar. This is the happiest month of the Jewish calendar. And we believe that when Adar is here, we have to be joyous in every moment of Adar, because on Purim is when the Jewish people were saved, and a long time ago. And so we have a special gift for our host today, and that is the Scroll of Esther. And we would like to present the Scroll of Esther, a very beautiful artistic rendition of the Scroll of Esther, to our friend and our host, who we all love so much, Rabbi Yehuda Glick. And we're going to ask everybody to present it together. Everybody is welcome. Everybody can join us for the picture.
Yeah, you got. You guys stay over there. We're going to go this way.
okay, yeah.
Majority of people are there.
Right, well,
And we'll walk over there. How's that? And don't go before you go over the microscope. You can look and check and make sure that it's a Bible. And Mike will be there to give each and every one of you the pin. I'll stand over here. And everybody here. Come on over here. Come on.
Gemma, this way. Oh, we are not allowed to in here, no?
Come on. Please, all of you there, behind the scenes, nobody's getting away with it. Come on.
Israel 365.
Come on up here.
Israel 365.
Hayobel, root sources, all people connected.
We don't need so many photographers.
That's right.
We have a photographer. We have a photographer. Nice look at me. Yeah.
Come on. And stay where you are, because there are going to be more people who are going to take a picture and then run into the picture. And so stay where you are for a few minutes. We need a few pictures, because people are going to take a picture and then run into the picture also. So, and we have some redheads can come join the picture also. Even female redheads can join. Okay, hold on, Miguel. Okay.
Hope you use this on the floor. Right?
Okay.
That's it?
That's it. Thank you very much. Before you go, I want to remind you, if you go to Mike Cohen and get your pen with the Nano Bible, I want to also thank you all so much for coming. I want to tell you that this month we're celebrating Purim, but next month we're celebrating Passover, and there we show that we are a free nation who can have free to ask questions, free to drink in honor of God. Thank you very, very, very much. We love you all from the light of Israel, from the light of the world, from Jerusalem. Shalom from Jerusalem.